Here we go. Listen, I have a short amount of time, so I want to drill this information. This is, to me, first of all, my name is Mark. If you don't know me, I've been here for almost 3 years now. And, you know, I spent most of my adult life building network marketing teams, big network marketing teams all over the globe. So when I met Andy years ago, he thought that, you know, in order to increase the overall sales of the organization, we would like to get more recruiting going on, more recruiting and building. And if you're new to what we do, there's really 3 things we do. We sell, we recruit, and we build. Earlier today, we had a gentleman named Jim Henson. Some of you certainly know Jim. He's been in the insurance industry forever. Andy always introduces him as a living legend. One of his main mentors, and he was talking about when he was president of an insurance company, I believe in the 1990s, he went in there. When he got there, there was about 580 people, and the way they got the company rocking was he focused on recruiting, and they ended up with about 15,000 active people writing. I mean, you don't have to be a mathematical genius to understand 15,000 people are going to sell more than 500 people. So I want to talk to you about selling and recruiting. And I've talked about this numerous times since I've been here, but tonight I'm really hoping for some of you, as they say, the penny's really going to drop and you're really, really going to get it. I hope tonight, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I hope for some of you, I'll be the right teacher and I'll explain this in a way, a better way that everyone, a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of you are really going to get this. So I want to start off by saying that we've all heard of the one and only Robert Kiyosaki, right? I have a PowerPoint. I never use PowerPoints. I'm so excited. I'm afraid I'm going to screw it up. So my first slide on my PowerPoint is good old Robert Kiyosaki. And most of you know, how many have heard of Robert? Yeah, most people have, but most of you know him because of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And in that book, if you don't know that book, first of all, if you haven't read that book, you should read that book. It's great for our business, but it's greater for your personal finance. You know, there's 2 real skills. One of them is earning money, so we're going to talk about all weekend long is earning money, but then once you earn money, you got to figure out the right way to spend your money. And that's where Kiyosaki really is exceptional. Like, I've spent a lot of time around Robert in, you know, off stage, and he's the real deal. He walks his talk. He knows what he's talking about. So when he gets into Rich Dad, the story was he was poor. And he talks about his poor dad, sadly, as his birth dad, the one who raised him. And then he had a best friend when he was a little kid, 8 years old, something like that. And that little kid's dad was an entrepreneur. And he's the one who told Kiyosaki everything he knows about investing and making money and being a business person. So he refers to him as his rich dad. Oh, thank you, Tia. Tia, give it up for Tia. Come on. Everything else you're doing, Tia does so much around here. I would have moved that table myself. You shouldn't have to do that. Thank you. Okay. It must have been screwing up the shot. So go back to Kiyosaki. So this book is not Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It hasn't sold bazillions of copies. A lot of people who really love Robert have never heard of this book before, but it's an important book called Cash Flow Quadrant. How many of you have heard of this book? Okay, how many, let me hear you if you've read this book. Okay, cool. Now, in the movie The Matrix, one of the favorite things that Morpheus says to the guy he's training, his mentee, he says to Neo, is there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. How many have ever heard that knowledge is power? I so thoroughly disagree. Knowledge is not power unless you use it. So there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So in this book, let's examine what he's really saying in this book. So the E, if you don't know the book, stands for employee. The S stands for self-employed. The B stands, this is so powerful that God is doing thunder outside right now. You think that's a coincidence? That ain't no coincidence. I'm telling you. B stands for a business owner, and I stands for an investor. So again, I know you know this, but we'll do this real quick. An employee. The vast majority of the people on earth are employees. They work for someone else. They make what's called linear income. They trade hours for dollars. There's a fixed amount of money for most employees within the budget of the company. So if you are an executive assistant or a secretary, let's say, and you can type, I don't know what fast typing is, maybe 400 words a minute. Let's say you type 27,000 words a minute. Like you are the greatest typist in the history of mankind. They're still not going to go above what is in the budget for a secretary. There's no performance bonus for typing faster. So I think we all understand, everyone who's in this room, I think I'm preaching to the choir, that being an employee is okay, but it's probably not what we want to do. The second group is we're self-employed. That's where most people in this room fall into this category. Self-employed. Now, here's the thing about being self-employed that's awesome. There's a lot of things. First of all, you get great tax benefits over an employee. Again, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad or this book, he gets into it and explains to it in very simple terms. The tax benefits of being self-employed are much better. There's a lot of great things about being self-employed, but probably the best thing is you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. You're your own boss, right? The problem with being self-employed and being your own boss and being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, is some of you have become the coolest boss you've ever had. It's like, so here's the thing, and I'm going to draw I always do analogies. So we're in the middle of the year, but pretty soon, before you know it, it's going to be December 31st, and everyone's going to make New Year's resolutions. And over 100 million Americans, as we always do, will make a resolution to get in better shape next year. Okay, and the gyms will be packed with people on January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And then if you go to a gym, you'll be able to get to the machines again and get on a treadmill by the 11th, 12th, 13th, because most people have already given up on the resolution by then, which is unfortunate. But the reason why most people who set out to get in good shape don't get in good shape, because they go to the gym when they feel like it. Most of you are making your dials when you feel like it. You're doing this thing when you feel like it. So I'm going to be very real tonight, okay? Okay, so I'm keeping this shit very real, okay? Sorry, I said a bad word. I shouldn't have said real. I apologize. So listen to me. Zig Ziglar is one of my all-time favorite trainers in the history of the world, and I know a lot of you have heard this before. Zig Ziglar said, the motivation doesn't last, and it doesn't. So this weekend, some of you are going to get motivated. As a matter of fact, most of you, if you don't get motivated this weekend, I would go to a hospital and check your pulse. You're going to get motivated, but here's the problem with motivation. It doesn't last. So for some of you, it's going to last a couple of hours after leaving the building on Sunday. For some people, it'll last 48 hours. Some people, it'll last a week. Some of you, it might last a month, but it's going to go away. So if you're, and I love this, people go, Mark, I want you to be my mentor. Will you call me up and motivate me every day? And I'm like, what kind of crack did you take this morning? No. No one who's worthy of being your mentor wants to call your lazy butt up to get you to go to work. So I'm going to say, I'm warning you before I say it, I'm going to say a bad word. Some of you are not going to like this word. Motivation doesn't last, but you know what lasts? Discipline. So you want to get in good shape, you go into the gym every day. When you don't feel like it, you make your dials every day. You do whatever you want to do every day. But, go back to self-employed, you thought I forgot. Most self-employed people suck at discipline. Because as an employee, they're used to having a boss who tells them what to do, when to do it, and if they don't do it, they get disciplined. So they do what they're supposed to do. And the crazy thing is, now that they're self-employed, they own their own business, they have the equity, they should work 10 times harder than they do as employee. But many self-employed people work less hard than with their employee because they don't have someone to stick their foot up their butt all the time. So I know I'm talking to someone. If you're like for real becoming the coolest boss you ever had, that needs to stop right now. Because there are people in this room that are making a ton of money, and none of them are doing it without discipline. None of them only do the business when they feel like it. So being self-employed is way better than being an employee, but note, it's still self-employed. Don't miss that. So you're still employed. You're self-employed, but you're employed. So therefore, let's look at the words here that are underneath it. So amount of active work determines your income. That's if you're an employee. Self-employed, amount of active work determines your income. How many see those as somewhat similar? That's pretty damn close. Thank you, Terry. I needed someone to confirm that. Okay, now, business owner, way different. Business owner, you are not trading hours for dollars. Your business doesn't own you. You are making income off other people's efforts. So you are leveraging your time, your energy, so you make money off other people's times and energy. So income is not dependent on your active work, and certainly as an investor, income is not dependent on your active work. Now here's what you got to get. 95% of everyone you talk to is on the left side of that line. If we drew a line down the middle, 95% are on the left side. Ironically, 3% of the whole population gets rich. What side of the line do you think they're on? They're on the right side of the line. So when I met my mentor, he goes, look, that line, and this before Kiyosaki, but he said there's a line right down the middle of the country, and there's rich and poor, those who have and those don't, those who rent and those who own, those who borrow money, those who loan money. So which side of the line are you on? Of course, I was on the wrong side of the line. I was leading the wrong side of the line. I was $50,000 in debt on credit card. I was way on the wrong side of the line. And he said, look, this business gives you the ability to go on the other side of the line. And that's a big thing, because if you don't get on the other side of the line, you ain't never going to get rich. So the business owner thing, you can make significantly more money. So you've all heard this quote. Tell me if you've heard this quote. It's better to make 1% off the efforts of 100 people instead of 100% of your own efforts. How many heard that? Who said that? J. Paul Getty. So J. Paul Getty, if you haven't Googled him lately, I'm pretty sure was the first recorded billionaire in the history of the United States of America. I know for a fact when he came here for Scotland, he had the equivalent of about $1 US in his pocket. So he went out and became a billionaire with that concept. How many of you think that that's a good concept to follow? So it's better. I just want to make sure we really hear this, because listen, there's a lot of things we hear them all the time. So we assume we know them, and we assume we're doing them. Okay, let me go a step further. This is going to be painful. When I was up and coming, there was a lot of things I was saying from stage during presentations, but I wasn't doing them. But I was saying them because I learned them. So again, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So if you want to be in a position where you're a B business owner, you've got to get to where your income does not depend on your active work. If you're making 100% of your own efforts, your income depends on your active work. Real quickly on investing, Albert Einstein said the most powerful thing on earth is compound interest. How many, if you don't know Einstein well, how many think he was a smart dude? Okay, so compound interest. If you don't know what that is, Google it, okay? Robert Kiyosaki says either you are a slave to money or money is a slave for you. And it's dependent upon one thing. Are you earning compound interest or paying compound interest? Americans have more credit card debt now than ever in the history of our country. So most people are on the wrong side of the line. Most people are in debt. Most people are scared and confused. So people are way more recruitable than you think they are. Okay, if you would understand what I'm saying, and some of them may not even know what I'm saying right now, but we know it's true. You got to get on the other side of the line. How many would like to live the rest of your life being on the right side of the line, earning significant income where it's not all coming from your efforts, and then taking a chunk of that and investing it? If you're not cheering for that, I should come down and hit you in the head with a hammer. You should. Come on now. All right, so this is all building up to this. I'm going to click behind my back. Check that out. What percentage of your income here at the Alliance comes from your personal efforts? That is the big question. So if you are selling, and here's the problem. When I met Andy, he goes, Mark, I got a problem. I don't know how to fix it. I got people, and we teach them how to sell, and they go out and make $100,000, $200,000 a year. I go, that doesn't sound like a problem to me. I came from network marketing where when people sold products, they made $2,800 a year. It's like, if people are making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year selling, he goes, yeah, but because they're making that much money selling, they're not recruiting and building a business. They either don't feel the need to, or they don't have time to. Whatever, there's a reason there. But here's the truth, guys. If you are under pressure, people will work harder than if they're in a comfort zone. Is that true? So if you're out there, and some of you really need to hear me right now because I'm talking directly to you. You may be making $200,000 a year right now. Maybe you never made more than $50,000 a year in your life. So you are like doing the backstroke. Like, life is good, cool, and congratulations, but you're on the wrong side of the line. And if you stay on that side of the line willingly for the next 10, 15, 20 years, someday this talk is going to come back to haunt you. Because at some point, you're not going to want to work as hard as you're working right now. So here's the deal. If today, as we're sitting here, you're making 100% of your income from selling, that's cool. But can we put a concerted effort to recruit a couple of people so in the future, if we ask that question, it's only 90%? How many think that's doable? A couple of people. A couple of people. I'm not telling you to get crazy. I'm telling a couple of people. Now, recruiting, and Jason did a great job of giving you some of the how-tos. The problem is we could do a 3-day seminar and do nothing but the how-tos of recruiting. There's a lot to it. So you need to learn more how-tos. There's warm market how-tos and cold market how-tos. But the point is there's enough leaders in the field who are actively building that are happy to work with you, but you've got to be willing to sell, recruit, and build. Now, I'm not telling you not to sell. Sell. Okay, here's a pendulum. Pendulum goes like this, right? Here's perfect balance in the pendulum, right? That's perfect balance. Here's out of balance one way. Here's out of balance the other way. So you don't want to go way over here and not sell anymore. You don't want to go way over. You want to be somewhere in the middle. Does that make sense? So if you get to a position, and I know, and I could call out a bunch of people. There's a lot of leaders here that you know their name. And the reason why you know their name is they're not all the way to this side of the graph. They are definitely building a team. So some of them, 70% of their income comes from their own efforts. Some of them, 50% of their income. Some top leaders, 20 or 30% of their income comes from their efforts. So they've been working their way to the left for quite some time. I know Mike Guerra is right here in the front. I know that's been one of his main goals, is to make sure his income is about 50-50. I really want you to get that concept. What if 50% of your income comes from your selling? So you still sell. Today at the agency manager meeting, Marvin Ozuna did a great job of talking that he still goes out on sits. He showed everyone his schedule, so he has time every week to go and sell. Stephen Davies has a big team. He goes out and sells every week. You should go and sell every week. It's not an either or, it's an and. But the key is, if you keep making reasons and excuses not to recruit and build, then you're always going to stay on the wrong side of the line. And you're never going to make big money. So again, if you're in a position right now where what you're making is okay and you're in a comfort zone and this message isn't hitting with you, I get it and I understand. And it's not a terrible thing if you're making $150,000 a year and you're comfortable and you don't want to work much harder. But I'm just telling you, man, things are, I don't know what's going to happen with the economy and everything. There's so much talk going on. Obviously, the election's going to affect it. Looks like interest rates are going to come back down. But how many of you realize there's a bigger transfer of wealth that's happened in the last couple of years than any other time in the history of our industry? Let me just tell you what Mark personally is interested in. Making more money from my activity, from my job, if you will, my career, than I've ever made, so I have a ton of cash to invest like crazy. I think there's going to be investment opportunities that are going to be mind-boggling that can set you up for real, no joke, generational wealth. Incredible generational wealth, but as the old rule is, cash is king. So are you working hard enough to have an extra 300 grand to invest next year? Extra 500 grand? So again, doing it by yourself, selling, is probably not going to get it done. So it would be awesome. Think about this for a minute. If 70% of people in this room, 90 to 100% of your income is coming from you, what would happen if 1 year from today, this whole room was 50-50 or better? Could you imagine? First of all, we would no way in the world be in this room. If that were to really happen, and I'm not exaggerating, this has always been my vision for the Alliance, then we'd be in some of the places I've done events, like the Miami, American Airlines Arena in Miami. Could you imagine everything that's happening here, but with 18,000 lunatics in a room with us? With people making far more money than you're making now, and far more people making far more money. But in order to do that, that's a big team goal. So let's break it down very simple. Go from 100% to 90%. Put some energy into recruiting. You make your goal in the next year or 2 or 3 to get to 50-50. But I'm telling you, the further left you go, the more stable your income is, the more likely someday Integrity would want to make you a partner, and the more you're going to be like Andy Albright. How much of Andy's income do you think comes from his personal sales? Everyone close your eyes for a minute. That's what percentage of Andy's income comes from his personal sales. He doesn't have to sell anything, and he makes an enormous amount of money. So again, I know I'm being very direct with this, not trying to hurt anyone's feeling. What I'm trying to do is get you on the right side of the line. And understand, it's not going to happen overnight. And if you've been selling and you finally figured that out, and you go into recruiting, it's going to be challenging. It's a brand new skill. It has nothing to do with the other skill. It's like you learn how to play tennis, now you're going to learn how to play basketball. They're really pretty doggone dissimilar. There's not a lot of similarities between selling and recruiting, but if you could learn one, you could learn the other. And I'm telling you, when you master recruiting and building, it pays a lot more than mastering selling. All right, I'm done with my PowerPoint, but I'm not done altogether. So let me keep going. Jason just did a great job talking about cold market. So when we were on the Alaskan cruise, by the way, who was on the Alaskan cruise? Let me hear my crew. Oh my God, that was so fun. I do have to say my wife wanted to be here so bad. A lot of people met my wife on the cruise. You know, it's depressing now. No one's like, hey, Mark, good to see you. They're like, where's your wife? Thanks, that's good for the self-esteem, yeah. But in all sincerity, she really, really, really wanted to be here, but she's a mom first, and the kids start school next week, and she backed out the 11th hour. But she'll be here again, because she absolutely loved really hanging out and meeting everyone. So anyway, people are on the Alaskan cruise. How many of you, let me hear you if you were not on the Alaskan cruise? I don't know if that's something you should go, woo, but I thank you for responding. Okay, so how many of you plan on being on a Mexico trip next year? That you can woo for. Okay. So when we were in Alaska, there was a one main meeting where all the winners were there, but there was a couple of breakout meetings on specific topics. And the one meeting, I know you guys who were there will remember this, Andy said, how many of you are here because of you answered an ad or something that's basically cold market? And there was about 100 people in the room, and there was about 10 to 12 hands that went up. Then he said, how many of you are here because someone you know said you should take a look at insurance? And 80-something hands went up. So I just want you to understand, it's just like I just said, you sell and recruit. You do warm market and cold market. If you have an opportunity to go fishing and you get paid $1 million for every big fish you catch, and you could have an unlimited amount of lines that you put in the water, how many of you put as many lines in the water as you possibly could? Why would you put one line in the water if you could put 2 dozen or 3 dozen lines in water? So recruiting, like selling, is a numbers business, so we've got to get a lot of lines in water. Here's what you got to understand, though. Warm market has something magical the cold market will never have. It has trust. It just does. So in other words, there's people that I talked to while I was here, and I was thinking about it. They wouldn't be here if they saw an ad somewhere. They're here because a good friend of theirs told them about this company. So all I'm saying is, well, first of all, we have a great cold lead thing going on. I know people are doing LinkedIn now. There's other sources, and it's working, and you just got trained on how to do it. So I'm not saying not to do that. I'm saying to do that. What I'm saying is your business will go way faster if you do that and you go to warm market. The other thing you really got to understand, and this is sort of an advanced thing, so there's selling, there's recruiting, and there's building. So recruiting is going to someone and I get them off an ad. I get them however I get them. Building is when I drive through them to get their warm market. See, I stayed in warm market. My mentor beat us that all we did was warm market. And the only time he would ever tolerate us doing something cold market is if we went cold market and ran an ad for one reason, to get someone so we could run their warm market. Because in warm market, you've got trust. So I'm just saying, if you want to go a lot faster, just always think that warm market builds bigger, faster. If I say 5 plus 5, how much is 5 plus 5? Come on. I know you know. What's 5 times 5? Multiplying's better, huh? What's 100 plus 100? 200. What's 100 times 100? 10,000. You're going, damn, I didn't know it was going to be a quiz. Yeah, there's 10,000. So it's way better to multiply. Warm market multiplies a whole lot faster. And if you're not good at doing it, I understand. Work until you get good at it, because when you learn that, it's amazing. Let me tell you one more thing. Warm market's great. Hot market's better. What's hot market? Hot market are your quote-unquote ride or die people. They're the people, if your car breaks down at 3 o'clock in the morning in a bad part of town and you're scared to death, you don't know who to call, this is the person you're calling. It's a person that you call them up and go, hey, you want to go to Pango Pango tomorrow? And they go, yep. They don't know if they can get off work. They don't know what it costs. They just know if you're going to Pango Pango, they're going to Pango Pango. So it's the people So you should go to those people. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people don't go to their hot market. For some Jedi logic, you leave them off your list. So go to your hot market, run warm market. Another concept I want to make sure to share with you. So when you do get a new recruit, right? Yeah, I got one. I got a new agent. A lot of you look at it like you've just given birth. We saw the baby today, Andy's grandson. What a beautiful, I mean, incredible. Like, you could definitely get them to be a model. I'm sure you already figured that out. So this perfect little baby. So when you look at your baby, that's the way a lot of you are looking at your new agent. You're going, oh my God. First they're gonna walk, then they're gonna crawl, then they're gonna walk, then they're gonna go to school, then they're gonna be here for oh my God, you have so long with them. Okay, that's one way of looking at sponsoring a new person. How many of you have had an agent quit? How many have had them quit relatively quick? So let me give you a slightly different way other than going, oh, I just gave birth to a new agent. How about you're in the intensive care unit of a hospital and someone has been given 30 days to live. And here's the one way they won't die is if you get them to make some money. It's as simple as it gets. So again, a lot of you guys got people on your team and you're just sitting there going, okay, figure it out. Figure out how to get licensed. Figure out how to do this. They don't know what they're doing, guys. They're like a brand new child. You've got to walk them. Is it a pain in the butt to hold their hand and do basic things with them? Yes, but if you do those things, and some of the people that are brand new, you hold their hands, you go out in the way to make money with them, and they're uncooperative. Is that frustrating? So here's what a lot of you are doing. You're letting the lazy people who are never going to be successful at anything in life, you're letting them take away your enthusiasm for the next person. Let me sit on that one for a minute. Zig Ziglar said success is going from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. So I know a lot of you guys got that with selling, right? Okay, this person said, no, I'll go to another one, go to another one. It's more important with recruiting. Because if I go on a sale and I'm there for a couple hours, I don't make a sale, it's not that big of an emotional thing. But if I work with someone for a couple of months or maybe even a year and a half, 2 years, and then they quit or they go to a different company or whatever, it's emotional. So I understand that sucks, but you've got to go from one failure to another with zero loss of enthusiasm because there's way more Stephen Davies out there. There's a bunch of them out. I don't know if they're as crazy as Stephen, but I mean, there's a bunch of Fitzes out there. There's a bunch of Diane Lampies. There's a bunch of Terrys. These people are all over the place, but you got to have your A game on. You can't be frustrated about someone who's on your team who's not doing what they're supposed to do. And remember this, leaders are never affected by their environment. Leaders always affect their environment. So if I've got a lazy, listen to this one, this is gonna uppercut someone right in the jaw. You got people on your team and they're not getting registered for the event, and they're not buying enough leads. So because they're not doing what you're supposed to do, your attitude is going down. You can't let that happen, okay? First of all, just keep putting new people in. New people are like puppies. How many got a dog who's been around so long, they're like, whatever. I mean, they're cool, but they're like, come on, you gotta they don't want to play, they don't want to smile, they're not gonna lick anything anymore. You get a new puppy, I remember when I got my last puppy, that dog bounced off it flew around, and it was like a cartoon. It was like the coolest. So we want that puppy energy, but the puppy energy comes from the new age. The new agents are a pain in the ass, but it's the only way to do it. So you've got to always be putting people in. So remember, they're in the intensive care unit. You got 30 days before they're going to lose interest or their self-doubt is going to eat them up. So there's got to be an urgency. So let me tell you one more story about urgency. I'm almost done. I'm going fast as I can. So I have a friend named Dan. Dan was in a big network marketing company, and to reach the highest rank in the company, I think you had to have 5,000 active customers. Dan had 650,000 people on his team. So when I got to know Dan, we hung out. I'm going, come on, Dan, you got to tell me, like, we were friends working at a different company. He sold that business, actually. And I said, come on, there had to be something you were doing different. He goes, you know, the crazy thing, we only did one thing different than everybody else. So our pitch was, and remember in network marketing, almost everyone's part-time. So he's like, we'd sit down with someone during their game plan session, go, so are you willing to talk to 100 people about our products or our opportunity in the next 12 months? Everyone's going to say yes to that. In the next year, hell yeah, I'll talk to 100 people in the next year. He goes, yeah, after looking at all the research that we've done over the years, if you talk to 100 people in a year, there's really no definitive data either way. You may make it, you may not make it. However, the data shows if you talk to the same 100 people in the next 30 days, your odds of succeeding go through the roof. So urgency. Now let's go back to the intensive care unit. You've got to get their warm market while they're excited. And they'll make excuses like, well, I got to get licensed first. You know how much fun it would be to have 2 licensed agents before you even pass the test? Again, you need to affect your environment. You need to overcome the objections, because what if that person is never going to sell anything, but they lead you to someone who's the next Terry Edwards? But you don't get the next Terry Edwards because you're not pushing, because you're afraid to push. You can't be afraid to push if you're pushing in the right direction. All right, last couple of thoughts. This is the last thing I got to say. So in network marketing, I'm sorry, but that's my background. So I have to think through that lens. That's how I see things. So we make all our big money recruiting, very little money selling, because the products are so inexpensive. You have to sell a lot of bottles of weight loss to make a full-time living. So most people are looking, Noel, yeah. I got it, Noel. Well, you know what screwed me up is your real name you gave us earlier. And I'm like, oh my God, what was that? So anyway, I look at Noel and go, Noel, I'm a network marketer right now. I'm going to show you how you can make $100,000 a year. In the meantime, I'm not making $100,000 a year. In the meantime, the only way she can do it is if she builds a big team. So it's very difficult, because most people deep down inside are good. And I can't show her a game plan because I'm not doing it. Now, how many of you, let me hear you if you're making $100,000 a year or more selling insurance. Let me hear you. Every one of you. I don't understand how you are not recruiting like a maniac, because you can look Adam in the eyes and goes, Adam, all I know is I can definitely show you how to make $100,000 a year selling insurance. I don't know if I can show you how to build and be a partner, but I know that I know because I'm doing it. That certainty, looking someone right. Do you know how many people in this country would die to make $100,000 a year right now? So you need to be way bolder, and at the end, don't go, so what do you think? It's like, look, I'm looking for 5 serious people, and I know I can show you how to make more money than you've ever made because I'm doing it. Man, if you make that one shift, I'm telling you. I'll also tell you this. Our next event is 90 days. Listen to this one. Each one of you is earning this week what you're earning because of what you did for the last 90 days. So if you're not happy with your income now, why don't we flip a switch, and why don't you go crazy for the next 90 days, and why don't you walk into the next event making the biggest check you've ever made in your life? That's all I got. Peace out.